Hello everyone, welcome again. And I think this is number 4. This is day number 4 we are into. And what we are going to do today, let's recap first and then I will tell you about today. Let me share the screen. Yes. So what we have done last day is we have seen the capability of programming, how the mix of the logic building and the APIs can do a wonder. We have seen create tree example that is that creates several lines in a specific order, and we get a geometry that looks like a tree. And journal we already saw. I think we saw it on day 2 only. It is a simple tool that helps us start with programming immediately without learning too many stuff about the tool and all. And we have seen the API reference guide. We have just touched upon that guide, and we tried to find out few APIs related help pages that we have already seen in the one of in few of the examples. We have tried to see the pages, help pages of those APIs. Then in API reference guide, we saw namespaces, classes, and its members. Constructor, I will touch upon that. We have seen this, but not exactly. I focused on constructor, and yeah, you have got an assignment to analyze the journal, the recorded one, and this thing I haven't talked much I think in live session yet, but this is worth talking about. In the first video itself that I shared with you, I have talked about strangest secret in the world. If you have gone through that video and you watched or you have listened at least once this particular YouTube video, then it is then you at least get started. If not, then I recommend you. I want to push you one more time to do that. Go and watch this YouTube video either in Hindi or English, whichever language you are comfortable with, and listen it with full focus, not doing anything else during that time. It helps you change your mindset. It helps you a lot in lot of aspect. It helps what things that it changes in yourself, in it transforms in yourself. That don't ask me, but if you listen this particular video daily for next 30 days, this will do a magic in yourself. You won't be the same person who you are one month back. It 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 uh, it is like rewiring of your brain. It is like doing a format of your brain, format reformat. So it is that kind of change that it can bring to your life. It is that powerful video or powerful, or it's an audio actually. You can just listen to it, no need to see the video. It's audio one. But if you haven't tried it yet, I must recommend you at least try once. And if you if you realized that what I'm saying is making sense, then continue for 30 days without a break. It is definitely going to do the magic for you. And just a reminder, take notes and post those notes in a learning channel at the end of this session. With this, let's start with today's topic. What we have seen is we have seen several journals, we have seen how they works, and now let's touch upon some basic things uh, about the programming first, and then we will also see some basic things within NXOpen. So there are several basic things. Data type is one of that. So let's understand what is data type. There are actually two type of variables or parameters those we use in our program, and one of that is very commonly used, which is called variables, and other is called constant, which is very rarely used or any very often it's used, but very popular one is variables. So what is variables? Variable is nothing but the container that stores some values. It can be a value in numbers, it can be a value in format of text, it can be anything, but that stores some data value. So that is called variable. And constant is the same thing, but little bit different version. It is nothing but a variable. But the only difference between variable and constant is constant value does not change at all. Uh, uh, if we define that value and if we try to change that value for a constant, it is not going to happen. For example, pi. So it is 3.142. It is always 3.142. It's not going to change. So it is called a constant. If you do have some constant you are going to use in your program, then it makes sense you use them as a constant, not as a variable. Now let's see how variables are declared. Uh, what I will do is I will get into the NX and use a journal. Okay, and what I will do is I will go and declare a variable. So variables are of various types. Integer is one of the type. Uh, String is one of the type. Then Boolean is one of the type. There are several types. We are going to see those types. Don't worry about that. So let's declare the integer type of variable. The the way it should be declared is, first we mention its type. Data type is first thing that we declare. Then we declare its name, data name. Then is equal to its value, data value. And then semicolon. Semicolon is a part of syntax in C#. We always need to provide semicolon at the end. So this is the syntax part for declaring uh, a variable. Now let's see the example. Int is going to be the data type, and then I will mention data name, which is called as identifier. So if I say this name, this is terminology you have to understand or you have to remember. Identifier means the variable name. So uh, number of lines. So this is going to be my variable name or identifier, and then is equal to value. Let's say 15. So this is typically how we can declare a variable. So this is for int type. Int means integer. Integer is always a value 1, 2, 3, 4 and on. It doesn't contain any precision or any uh, point in between. So it is always a full number. Then the other way is we can even declare the data or the variable without its value. It is also possible. So let's say uh, int again. This time I will say it number of sketches, and I can directly put semicolon. The only difference between two is that in first case we do have defined data type, data name, identifier, and value as well. But other one, the it is only where we have only defined identifier, number of sketches. We haven't defined its value because maybe the reason that we don't know the value of it, or we do not want to initiate any value at this point of time. Maybe I will further write a code and then I will uh, pull out all the number of sketches and then I will assign value to this. So that may be the case, but this is also possible. I can even go and define, declare identifier for the variable without its value. And same goes for any other data type as well. The other popular data type is double. So double, then its identifier square width is equals to 12.5 semicolon. So as it is a double, it can hold the precision value 12.5. I can give it as 12.5 or even 12.551. It can be like this 551. So it can hold the this value in precision. So we have to be very cautious about how which data type we are using. So based on what value it's going to be stored in that variable, we have to define the data type accordingly. Let's say I do want to store the sketch name, or what we have seen yesterday, user attribute. So if that kind of thing, then I must define the variable data type as string, because string is something that stores the text alphabets. It can store the word, it can store the entire sentence, all of that. So I will identifier I will use as sketch name and then sketch one. So sketch one, we need to write it into double quotes because this is a string and string is always written in double quotes. So we have to use double quotes for this, double quotes for this. Then what else is the important one is Boolean. Boolean is written like this, B-O-O-N. Boolean meaning the value it can store is either true or false. So if we wanted to deal with some kind of variable which is either is true or false, then that time it is declared as bool. So is sheet body If I wanted to check if it is sheet body or not, if it is, then it will be true. If it is not, then it will be false. So if that kind of thing, then I can declare the variable as bool. So this is other data type. Along with that, we do have other data types. For example, long, float, decimal, which are very similar to double, but they hold different means how much bytes that they can hold is differs. I'm not going to go into that details. How much is the storage capacity of specific type and all of that, because these are not that popular and you are not going to use that very often. Long, decimal, and float. One more thing which you should know, one more type within data type within C sharp is char. So char is nothing but characters. So if you are let's say sheet labels A, B, drawing view label, not sheet, drawing view. So uh, detail view B, section view D. If that kind of things, then it is only one letter. So character is the kind of variable type, data type that can hold only one letter. So this is why we can mention identifier as view name, and then how character is defined, value is defined is like this, single quote and then semicolon. So this is how data types can be defined, and no need to say we can define these data variables without its values, and we can assign value to it later. In short, there are three things involved in defining the variable. First important thing, all three are important. First one is its definition of its type, then uh, defining the identifier, and last thing is assigning a value. First two, its type and its identifier, are mandatory, because without that uh, you cannot initiate that variable. But the last thing, assigning value, is an optional thing. You can initiate without you can initiate that variable without its value. Okay, so this is these are the data types and these are how it is defined. And the other part after definition of data types is done is conversion, meaning there are some data types where the conversion is possible. For example, integer 15. So what value we have for this is 15. This 15 we can also, instead of defining it as integer, as the value is 15, we can even go and define it as double, because double can even hold the whole number. It does not like that it only needs the precision value. It can even hold or store the whole number. So we can even define it as double. But conversion is purely depends on the value of variable. If I have 15 as double, or let's say as integer, and I want to convert that into string, this can be possible. We can convert that into string, provided we need to use double quotes. So though it is a number, it will be considered as a word, or as a alphabetical uh, thing. So we can even declare it as string, but we have to use double quotes. Now, why I am doing this like this? If this is a journal editor, even if I go and mention it as int, nothing is changing when it comes to the journal editor or the code. But if we are not declaring the data types uh, as expected by the C sharp, then we are going to get the errors in our program. So I can write anything. My journal editor is not that smart and it won't give me any any error. So it won't highlight anything wrong in my code. But I have to follow certain guidelines how the programming language works. So I have to, for string, it is the rule. It is the ground rule that we have to mention string into double quotes. Okay, so this is about the data types. About conversion, we are going to learn more later. Now let's pick up some example. Maybe let me save this. And let's open the one of the journal that we have already seen. Let's open create line. Now I can talk about semicolon first. You can see we do have semicolon on each line because this is required. This is the syntax of C sharp. But there are no semicolons when we have initiated functions. Here, public static void main is a main function, and there is no semicolon because for semicolons are not required where we are initiating the functions. Similarly, here we are initiating class, so we do not require semicolon here as well. Otherwise, we require semicolon. There is one more case where semicolons are uh, not used. If we are using any other function of C sharp, so this is initiation of a function, either class or a main function. But here you can see it is a for each. For each also the function of C sharp. And if we are initiating function like this, that time as well, we don't need semicolon. Even we are using if function or if any other function, that time as well, we don't need semicolon. Otherwise, we need it. So you can see this is a for each function. We don't have semicolon here. Here as well, we do have another for each function. Here as well, there is no semicolon. But otherwise, we need semicolon. Now, let's talk about the data types. Let's take this example. This example do have some variables. Now here int is the type. Then we do have identifier, and this is the value of this variable. Now where we do have the variable declared, this one. So it is double. Forget, ignore about the static. Uh, Double is the type, and then this is going to be the identifier, and then we do have some formula. Either we can straight away provide some value, or we can either use formula like this. It is possible when we are going to assign, when we are assigning a value, we can even have a formula. This is how this double variable is defined. Now couple of things about data types. When it comes to identifier, there are few things we need to note, we need to remember. Our identifier cannot start with a number. For example, I cannot start the identifier with this some number, either 0 or 1, whatever. I cannot start the identifier like this. I can have any name as identifier, but I cannot start with the number. Then we cannot have space in between. This is the identifier is degrees to radian. Here hyphen is used, but underscore is used. Uh, because why this is used? Because I cannot use space. This is not possible. You cannot have the identifier with spaces. So if we wanted to have space, we have to do something like this. Use a hyphen or underscore. Then we cannot use common names. Common names means class is a common name. NXOpen is a common name. System is a common name. Point 3D is a common name. So we cannot have these names as an identifier. We cannot have work as a identifier. This is not because this will confuse our program and it is not. It will show some errors. So we cannot use common names for identifier. And last important uh, tip is as a best practice is it is good to use a meaningful name for the identifiers. It, we can simply use X or Y, or we can simply use ANG for angle. So this is a very short name, shortcut to define identifier. But if we keep on using this kind of identifiers, it can confuse us. So instead, it is the best to use a meaningful name, meaningful word for the identifier. If it goes longer, that's not a problem. But using meaningful name is going to be useful for identifiers. Okay, so with this we come to the end of data types. I know I am not covering too much about data types, but that is not required at all to cover. When the time comes, when we go through the examples, uh, we will get into the details if anything is missed out. But we don't need to learn too many theoretical things about C sharp. Okay. The next topic is data types in NXOpen. Now, this might be a little new or surprise topic for you because you will say that data types is the one and the same thing, whether it is for programming language or whether it is for NXOpen. But there is several data types in NXOpen, and uh, we have only seen few data types in C sharp, but the list of data types in NXOpen is very huge. It's literally impossible to list them all. It is that much huge. So let's understand what I am what I mean to what I mean by this. Now I will start with some other program, not this one. We start with the smallest one, create line. Now let's understand about the data types in NXOpen. The way we define data types is same. First we mention the type, then we mention identifier is equal to its value. So that format, that syntax remains the same. But uh, let's have a look at some of the data types and the variables um, um, in NX context. The first one here is session. So session is a type. Then the session is identifier, and this one session dot get session is a value. Similar goes for this. UI is a type, the UI is identifier, and UI dot get UI is value. Now similarly, part is a type, work part is identifier, and the session dot parts dot work is a value. Now let's forget this because this is not useful at all in this journal, and have a look at these two, these two. Now what I have introduced you first time when I introduced you this example. Uh, in order to access the active part in NX, first thing we need to do is we need to access the session of NX. NX session we have to access. Then in order to access that work, that part, active part, we have to access that via this line. Now uh, session is a type. Now you will say that how this can be a value. Actually, value is not just a text or a number. It can be also object. So object is very broad when it comes to the programming. But let's start with object because then it will be easier for you to understand. So the session is nothing but the object, and that object is assigned to this variable. Now that object is can be anything. Even sketch is object, feature is object, part itself, the active part in NX, that is a object. Assembly as a whole is object. Component within that assembly is object. Assembly arrangement is object. Expression is object. Assembly constraint is object. So everything is object. And when it comes to the data types in NX, most of the times the values will be these objects. Though these are objects, this the other way around, what I can say is these are also different data types. This is a session, so it's a type, and I can only assign the session object as a value to this variable. Similarly, this one part, which is a data type in this case, and I can only assign part object as a value to this variable. And why I need to declare these two lines to access the part is because the part object that I want to assign is available within session. So first I have to initiate that session, and then the session dot parts dot work. This is how I can assign the part and the object to this variable. That's why I do need these two lines to define. Now let's talk about few more data types in NXOpen. Point 3D is a data type. P1 is identifier, and the way how we define the value is this. Uh, we can simply also do it like this. We can uh, declare it like this. Point 3D, let's say P0, and then semicolon. What this means, I have initiated the variable P0 as a point 3D, but I haven't assigned any value. It is also possible. But we have used new here before we define the value, the coordinates of it, because uh, Actually, new means we are initiating the instance of this variable with the fixed storage as a container. So we know that it variable can store it's a container that stores the value. So it is new is used to initiate that container, and we require to use new in some of the cases based on the data type. So point 3D requires to initiate that space, the container, the storage for the variable to store that value. So it is initiated with new, and then this is how the coordinates for point 3D the values are assigned. So that's why it is written like this. Now line as well. Uh, line is type, line one is identifier, and what is happening here? Here it is actually we are creating the line. So you will say that this line is actually creating that object into NX. Then how it is possible to have that as a value? It can be obvious question. But what happens after I use this API? Once this action is complete, creation of line is complete in NX, that time we get that line, that whatever object is created, we get that object as a value. Means we get that object in our program, and then we can assign that object as a value, provided the type of object matches with the type of variable. So create line creates a line, and that line object is assigned to this line one variable. So two things are happening in this line. First is the line creation is happening, and then second thing is that line object is got assigned to line one variable. The other way I can write it like this also. In first line I can only define the type and identifier. In line number 2 I can use that variable name and create the line. It is also possible. So I can even write it in two lines like this. And this is going to work. If you wanted to test it, we can even test. Yeah, you can see line is created. So this is how it is possible. Now we have seen some types with context to NXOpen. Now let's see another example. Let's see this one, get length. Integer, we have seen this type of variables already. Now what else is here? Curve length is nothing but the double type of variable. That is fine. I think no more variables apart from this. One thing you can note here is that this write listing window and this info write line, these two functions that help us display some text in a window. As that is a text, that is a string, right? And how and this you can notice double quotes are used to to when the string or text is used. So if I was not using double quotes, it will be a problem. So as it is a string, it is always used with double quotes. Okay, let's see some other example. User attribute. Yeah. So in this case, uh, this body is another type of variable. Then this is bodies, which is identifier, and this is the value. There is meaning to these square brackets. We will come to that later, not now. But this line is assigning the number of bodies as an object uh, to this variable. No, number of bodies as an object as a value to this variable. The other type is this one, NX object dot attribute information. This is another type in NX. Attributes is an identifier, and this is the value. Now let's see if we do have other. Okay, that's it. So these are all different journals where we can find different data types with context to NX. Now let's see the API guide and try to find out some more types of objects. We'll start from home, and we'll start from NXOpen.features, and then we'll start from extrude feature. Let's find the extrude feature. Yes. So let's click on the extrude. So this is a class, and this do have several API members. Now, on this page itself, we can find various data types or object types in NX. So you can see feature is a type, NX remotable object is a type, then NX object is also a type, object is also a type, body feature is a type, tagged object is also a type. So these are few data types we can see from this page. Now, if I go to some other class, let's say chamfer builder. So here the other types, some of them are builder, feature builder, then yeah, that's it. So we do have some here. A tagged object we have seen in the last class as well, in the earlier page. Now let's see, let's click on some of the relevant API. Okay, now I will start with this create arc. Let's say we start here. Start from here and understand few more things. Now we have seen this method of create arc. We'll double click this, and now you can see on this API page what we do have. When there is any API help we got for that particular API, then it is very well written. So first thing that how this API syntax is. So that is very well defined. Create arc, then bracket, then few parameters inside bracket, and then bracket complete. So this is how this API syntax is. Every API we do have different syntax. That is called constructor. So it is not a API syntax, but it is called a constructor. It means that whatever parameters we do need between brackets, those are very specifically defined. And why those are specifically defined? Because we have to exactly follow the same thing. Means point 3D, first point 3D is going to be only start point. We cannot have that as a point on arc. It will be only start point. The coordinates for that will be only considered as the coordinates for starting point. The same for point on arc. The same for end point. We cannot alter this. You can see, uh, though they are same type, point 3D, point 3D, point 3D, but their meaning is different. So that is called the constructor, and that constructor is always fixed for that API. We cannot play with that constructor. If we are going to play with that, our program is not going to work. So exact constructor information we find in the API page like this. Then we do have Boolean. So now you understand the meaning of Boolean. Boolean is either true or false. And this, what this indicates, it indicates alternate solution. Now let's understand with context to the NX. So how we create arc, we create with start point, end point, and point on curve. Now understand what is the meaning or what is the importance of this parameter, this Boolean parameter here. So let's read this. If true, if alternate solution is set to true, we know that Boolean is either true or false. So we can either set it to true or set it to false. If true, the arc will be created using alternate solution instead regular solution. The alternate solution for an arc is the position of a full circle that is left out of the regular solution. For example, if a regular solution is an arc that goes from 0 to 45, the alternate solution will be an arc with the same center and origin but goes from 45 degrees to 360. Okay, so we understand meaning of true, meaning of having true or false for this variable from this description. The other variable, the other parameter within this constructor is again Boolean, and that indicates start and end flip option. So if I cut short, not reading this entire thing, if I just follow the last sentence, if flipped is true, then arc dot start point equals end point parameter and end point equals start point parameter. So if we wanted to flip, then we can set it to true, and then that time start point becomes end point and end point becomes start point. So we do have these options or these parameters to define and complete the constructor uh, requirements to create the arc using this API. So you can see that there is very well mention of the data types. Those are uh, relevant with context to NX. Now, if I go and click on the data type, I get more information about that data type. We have used X, Y, and Z into the bracket, and why we know that it's common sense that to define a point we need three coordinates, but that is again very well defined here as well. So X, Y, Z is mentioned in this point 3D structure. So this is the structure of this type, point 3D data type. This represents three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate of a point. So we got these details about this point 3D type. Now, if I click on X, then I know that X is double type of variable. So everything, most of the times, these NX data types also land in some sort of type in C sharp because those are native types of variables. So whatever data types in C sharp, those are native ones, and these are NXOpen data types, which are actually inbuilt data types on top of the native ones. So we can understand why it is X, Y, Z, that particular sequence, why not it is Y, X, and Z, all of that. So that all clarity we get from the this one source, this reference guide. Then what else? What other types are? Let me find out quickly if I found some more information. I haven't used this specific API, but let's see. A sync process message method. So this is the API, and you can see iMessage is a data type. iMessage sync is also a data type. So this way there are numerous types of data in NX. So this is create attribute API, and here we do have these two different types of data. One is tag, another is attribute data. UFFAM dot attribute data. So these are just few to introduce you to the topic of data types. Okay, so that's it. We are done with the data types for C sharp as well as for NXOpen. As we go along, obviously, as we see more and more examples, you will come to know more and more different types of data, and we are eventually going to see the conversion of data types as well. But for now, this is all about data types.